In our seminars and surveys across the country with people just like you who either have hearing loss or are concerned about someone else who has this problem, or physicians, audiologists, and various industry experts, one question flows out once we begin to explain what Neurova involves. And that question is this: what do you mean by medically based treatment? How was it developed, and what's it going to do for me that hearing aids cannot alone accomplish for me? So I'm going to spend a few minutes with you today and explain that. Our surveys started to discover the root causes that could be uncovered, to learn why people are not immediately or eventually recovering their ability to comprehend sound and words, even music, the way that they used to be able to do. Our root cause discovery brought to our attention 4 distinct causes. Let me share with you what those are. First, we discovered that amplification in the way that it was done back in the 1940s, which is the origin of our root cause analysis, was non-scientific. The formula that's used is that wherever your hearing loss is prominent, wherever you have lost the hearing capabilities that you used to have, you're going to get through the hearing aid approximately half of that sound back, according to the capabilities of the instrument. This means that if the hearing aids are working, you are, on a very low level, going to be able to detect improvement in your hearing. But as we know, as time goes on, everyone, even with hearing aids, realizes that the comprehension that you used to be able to have and your ability to put sound in the background, sounds that you don't want to hear, have not been recovered. So we determined that the rules that were used to determine how much amplification you should get were non-scientific. We then discovered that there were no neuroscientific treatment standards that allowed you to know that you're getting the best possible care as knowledge continued to grow. We discovered there was no medical basis in the dispensing steps, and that there was no adherence to scientific principles. So when we established our research, this is where we started. And what we ended up with was the knowledge that there are 2 problems related to your hearing loss, not just one. The first problem we all know a lot about, and that is that the hearing organ is damaged due to getting older, the aging process, the effect of medication over many years of our lives, and the effect of noise. What is not known or educated in all of the dispensing professions are the neurophysiological impacts and the damage that is done in the brain because of a loss of hearing. So what has revolutionized hearing care started with our asking 2 questions. The first question is, okay, when we create this clinic, what if anything that we do has to have a medical reason? And what if we can't do anything unless we understand really deeply this second level of knowledge in the brain, how it works, and what happens when it goes bad? That is the essence of what Neurova is all about. So what did it require of us? It required a knowledge of cognitive science, neuroscience, biochemistry, and genetics. This is what we learned over time, that we could not understand how to make sure that you recovered and restored your life without an understanding at that level. So let's look at this slide and get down to the basics. We're going to give you a little bit of a primer in neuroscience so you can understand exactly what we're talking about. Here you have a wire. You have a wire on the left and then a junction, and in this case that junction is a switch, and then you have a wire on the right. So electricity flows one way, and so if that switch is off, the electricity cannot get from the left wire to the right wire. We all know all about that. In the brain, it operates in much the same way, only it is one heck of a lot more complicated. Here you have a very different looking kind of a wire and a very different looking kind of a junction. Well, the wire on the left is a nerve in the brain. For comprehension capability, you have about 100 million of those wires. And then you have a junction in between. This junction is like the most complicated switch you could ever imagine. Thousands and even hundreds of thousands of chemical reactions take place every time a single sentence is spoken to you. And then on the other side, you have the wire that carries that information further down into the brain that ends up leading to quick, fast, easy comprehension of what you hear. This is amazing. What's really incredible is how many switches there are, or junctions there are, between any one nerve and the next one that is dedicated to processing certain information. Research now shows that there are between 5,000 and 15,000 of these junctions with every single nerve. So there are 1,000 billion of them that make comprehension quick, easy, fast, and effortless if you have normal hearing. So let's turn our attention to this Christmas ornament looking thing on this slide. Medically based thinking requires of us to look as deeply as possible into the functions in the human brain so that we can understand how to correct those functions when they go bad. The evidence of the functioning improperly in your brain is due to the comprehension that you're having difficulty in performing, the understanding problems that you're having. One of the culprits is this thing. This is a very complicated protein. It is an enzyme. Let's call it CAMK2. Now in the next slide, you will see a cartoon model of this enzyme, thanks to the University of Peking in their cardiology research. This enzyme plays important roles in learning, in memory, and in synaptic function. Those junctions I just showed you are synapses. Those synapses play a very important role in how you comprehend. This enzyme plays a crucial role. What makes it possible to work is nothing more than how much calcium attaches to it. You see here up in the left, calcium, 4 calciums that are attached to each little location on this enzyme. What this means is this enzyme has 32 gears or 32 speeds. So what causes the calcium to either be there or not at a level where it can trigger this enzyme to work? Well, believe it or not, sound. How much sound, whether that sound is weak or whether it is strong, and what frequencies cause that calcium to attach to that enzyme so that it can serve its purpose. Now this enzyme causes problems all over the brain and in the body. If you have asthma, it's because this enzyme is not working effectively. If you have cardiac arrhythmia, it is because this enzyme is not functioning properly. If you have dementia, or if you have the possibility of developing dementia, it is because this enzyme is not functioning properly. And now we can attribute problems of comprehension to whether or not this enzyme is performing as it should. Let's go back to the junctions for just a minute. These junctions are a result of education, training, exercises, homework for years and years and years. This is how the body works. This is how the brain works. What goes into the brain gets structured in ways that only the brain can do to make comprehension or performance quicker and quicker and quicker, depending on how much you practice, how much you're trained, and how far you are educated. What happens when you lose that information, whether you choose not to put it in the brain anymore, you choose not to perform your music, you choose not to use a second language? Well, the brain has a protective feature that makes sure to preserve the integrity of the brain. How does it do this? When that information is not going through the brain like it used to, these junctions wither up, they lose their strength, they lose their power, and eventually they die, or they're gobbled up by protective cells in the brain. They're digested and gotten rid of. So when you have problems comprehending, what you really are having is an impossible task based on the fact that these junctions are being destroyed. If you have hearing loss right now, one thing you can be sure of is that these junctions are withering up, they are losing their strength and power, or they're disappearing entirely day by day by day. And that's what's causing problems with your comprehension. That's what medical thinking is about. How do we recover them? Can we recover them? Of course we can. This is another magnificent capability of the brain. What kind of information will allow us to recover them? Specific sound at specific amplifications in a process that triggers the genetics that are required to rebuild them in the first place. So genetics is involved. So every time sound is amplified through a hearing aid, does it lead to the rebuilding of these junctions? Well, the answer is absolutely not. If it was just about volume, the industry would have solved this problem many years ago. So we know it's not just about volume. It's about how many sounds are given to you in a medically therapeutic way that causes the brain to be able to say, wow, this is coming again, so we have to rebuild those junctions. How long does it take? In some cases, 3 months. In some cases, 4 months. 5 minutes a day, 6 minutes a day, whatever it takes. It's easy, it's simple, it's fun, it's not hard to do, it's not tiring to do, which is one thing that you can say that's really great about medically based therapeutics for hearing loss. It's simple. The brain does the hard work. You just give that information back to the brain in a certain way. The professional amplifies in a very precise and accurate way, and you're on your way to recovery. That, in a nutshell, is medically based treatment that is called Neurova.